Now we would like to move on to the next session for the day. A leader is one who lights the path to the impossible and takes those who follow to great heights. We would now like to call upon our pillar of strength and constant source of motivation, our Honorable Director, Dr. Adya Sharma. Dr. Adya Sharma is a dedicated professional with more than 20 years of rich practical experience. Articles written by her have been featured in different national newspapers and magazines. She visited the A4 Plus Consortium universities in Spain through University of Pompey Fabra Mobility Program under Erasmus grant, and also to Leeds Beckett University London to promote and strengthen international relations. She introduced COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning, as another step to provide international exposure to students. We request you, ma'am, to kindly address the gathering. Ma'am will be speaking on the topic, Changing Landscape of the Education Sector. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Seemit and Anushri. And thank you, Ashutoshji and Shreya, for giving me this opportunity on such an important platform. But even before I begin, I think Anushri and Seemit, you're doing a wonderful job. You're handling everything so nicely and professionally. And I cannot begin without appreciating you. Great job, Vita. So the topic that I'm speaking is something I think which is such an integral part of all our lives currently. And maybe at this point, let me share my presentation with you. And at any point you want to say, you want to contribute, please go ahead. So yeah, I'm talking about the changing landscape of education sector. Something, as I said, such an integral part of all our lives and such an integral part of my life. When I'm talking about this, let me just show you some figures, and these are from the Aisha report 2019-20, and this is just to give a perspective about the education sector, more specific, higher education in India. So we have 1,043 universities, we have 42,343 colleges, and there are more than 1 lakh, there are 11,779 standalone institutions. The education sector in India is huge. What really brought a smile to my face was that when we looked at the final enrollment, it is that females constitute 49% of the total enrollment, which is a great picture for my country today, considering that maybe a few decades back, this number was hardly there. This is just to give you an overall perspective of the education sector in India. When I'm specifically talking about the changing landscape, the past 2 years have changed everything, or at least have brought about a huge change. So maybe 2 years back, when that little child of 4 or 5 years wanted the mobile or the laptop, as parents, we used to scold and we used to say, "Nahi beta, no laptop, no mobile for you. The screen time has to be reduced." And we were very particular about it. However, in the last 2 years, the parents themselves now are giving mobiles or laptop to their children, because now they say, "Beta, please sit in front of the laptop, come here, see ma'am is calling you, your online classes are on." So I have my neighbor who's small kids, daughters, they go to upper KG or KG, and those little 5-year-old girls in the morning are sitting and attending online classes. And 2 years back, maybe, as I said, we would have said, "Hey, why is such a small child with a mobile or the laptop?" Yes, the pandemic brought about a lot of changes. They changed the perspectives, they changed the way we used to look at things. Talking here, those physical classes seem a little distant dream. When the class used to be crowded and there were teachers teaching, and I miss that physical energy, that enthusiasm in the class. Today, we are teaching online, or we are switching now to the hybrid mode. But yes, we are talking on screens, and as I famously say, especially as teachers, we are so used to living our life on camera. We are the stars all the time. And yes, what has brought a lot of, what has become extremely important is the use of technology. Technology, which has become an integral part of our lives. And this has brought its challenges also, because overnight the teachers had to train themselves in how to use Zoom and Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or something else. Suddenly we were flooded by so many platforms of how to communicate online. And the reverse, and the same is true for students also. They too had to train themselves to attend classes online. They had to train themselves to read books online. There were no, suddenly the physical books stopped and so on. But technology now was no longer only specific to some people. Everyone today needs to use technology, and its role in education sector has increased tremendously. So what are the changing landscape? Well, maybe so many. I can talk about so many points, but I've just picked out a few which maybe I think are important. And this is not an exhaustive list, but just some which I have observed in the last 2-3 years. Digital responsibility. Now, what do I mean? Yes, we talking about digital, we keep talking about online, we keep talking about technology. However, we miss a very important word, responsibility. And for those of you who've interacted me for a long period of time, you would know that when I use the word responsibility, for me, responsibility is a synonym of the fact that I believe you are mature. I believe you know what you are doing, and therefore you will take the right decision. For me, responsibility is a synonym of freedom. Freedom comes with responsibility. So for me, the word responsibility has a huge meaning. And when I'm talking about digital responsibility, what has happened? The children are now going digital at a much younger age. So those 4-year-old kids are attending online nursery classes. I mean, who could have thought of that? At the same time, the parents, we as parents, as seniors, are worried about the digital safety of the child. Education institutes are worried about the digital safety of all its stakeholders. And so we are worried about the fact that, yes, the original work of my faculty should not be misused. We are worried that plagiarism should not be there. We are worried that the right kind of information is accessed by the different stakeholders. And therefore, what I feel is that while we keep talking about how to impart technical skills, what is more important is the ethical skills. The ethical skills, so that as explorers, we are responsible explorers. Ethical skills, so that we understand that your security is as important as my security and safety. Ethical skills, so that we understand that we have this digital world is honestly a beautiful and a wonderful world. However, it's just a tool. And how to use the tool depends on you and me. A tool can be used, a tool can be misused. And therefore, it becomes extremely important that I feel that even before we start talking about, oh, your technical skills are so good, we first find out, does the person understand or have the ethical skills, and then groom him to have the technical skills. Because a wrong tool, because a tool in the wrong hands can be a disaster. And therefore, as we are all going digital, I feel the first thing that all education institutes across the country, across the world should do is ensure that we are talking about ethical skills with our various stakeholders. Our previous guest just spoke about the workforce. And yes, When I'm talking about the life skills and workforce preparation, I'm talking about the fact that we in the education sector, we have to prepare our students for a job which we don't even know how will it shape out in the future. So for example, when I was a student, there was nothing called digital marketing. And yet, by the time I joined this profession, digital marketing had become an integral subject, such an important subject. So we as faculty in the education sector, we have to prepare the youth for jobs of tomorrow, and we have to predict what the jobs for tomorrow will be, which means that we have to give them the right skills by which they can take care of all the future jobs. Now, let me explain this with an example. So while surfing the net, I found that there was this very interesting report by Cognizant. And it talks about 21 jobs, the road to 2028. Obviously, since it's by Cognizant, there's a little technical focus, but I found this very interesting. Look at the jobs they're talking about. So they're talking about digital tailor here. And they have divided them into, within 5 years, within 10 years, or 5 years to 10 years. So look at this digital tailor. They're talking about a personal data broker. I just love this genetic diversity officer. So we are not just talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are now talking about genetic diversity officer. We're talking about augmented reality journey builder. I mean, there's so many, but I just picked up 3, which I found interesting. And the first was this, which all of us need, which many of us need immediately using technology, and that is Walker Talker. Now, what is Walker Talker? It says Walker Talker is, it says customers break the curse of isolation, the bedevil so many seniors whose families are geographically dispersed, whose partners have died, and who know few people in their local community. Which means use technology to connect with these people who have no one to talk to. And we are social. We are all social animals. We need people to talk to. And look, so this is a job for the future. And look at the skills it says. It says, as a walker talker, you'll spend time with customers, following a recommended protocol of 10:1 listening to talking ratio, which means you have to be a good listener. The ideal candidate will be skilled at listening, responding, and prompting further conversation rather than dominating or leading the conversation. Which please trust me, is so difficult for human beings, because we were all born in love with our voices. We were all born in love with the fact that we are perfect, we know everything. And this is the skill which is not just for the future. Honestly, this skill was always required, but becoming more and more important, and which is listening. The second job profile that I just picked up was data detective. I really liked the word. It sounded so dramatic and so full of suspense, data detective. But look at the qualifications that they are talking about. So look at this. It says, that's why I've just picked up skills and qualifications. Experience in law enforcement. Ideally, investigative work, legal background, trained either as a trained attorney, lawyer, barrister, and go forward. And it says training or academic qualification in data science and data science technology. So you need a legal background. You need a technical background. Great. Knowledge, expertise in civilian data science reporting, qualification in maths or general science. So you need a legal background, you need a technical background, and you also need to understand maths or science or physics. But that's not the end. Qualification in any branch of finance and management accounting. Wow. And that's exactly what our previous guest was also maybe talking about. You need to have knowledge of different sectors. And at this point, maybe I speak like a true Symbian, but I'm so happy that we at Symbiosis, we do that. We provide that multidisciplinary flavor because we understand that just becoming a technical person or just becoming an accounts person is not going to help you. It will only help you reach a certain level. But if we are preparing you for the future, then well, you need to know so much. And last, which I really found interesting, was Chief Trust Officer. I mean, look at the designation. We even need an officer now. So Chief Finance Officer, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief HR Officer, but we need a Chief Trust Officer also. And it says, the days of Swiss bank accounts are now gone. And in their place, we find blockchain-enabled currencies. Moreover, organizations need to explicitly prove their financial integrity when dealing with currencies that have been developed to avoid scrutiny. And therefore, this candidate should have the following qualifications. So, 5 to 10 years of relevant experience in 3 or more of the fields, definitely 3, cryptocurrency trading, blockchain, traditional finance trading, PR and marketing. Wow. I mean, the first line says at least 3. Then it says master's degree with a major in either finance or investment management or economics. You need to be a CA, a solid grasp of blockchain and cryptocurrency regulations, and so on and so forth. So my point that you need to, you just can't say anymore, okay, I'm a marketing person, that's it. Uske aage mujhe janne ki zarurat nahi. Or I am an accounts person, that's it. Yes, that will help you, obviously, but only to a certain level. If you have dreams, if you have aspirations of climbing the ladder, you need to acquire more skills. And I think that's in the right direction. That's why the government has also introduced the new education policy, which exactly talks about this. It says a holistic and multidisciplinary education. It talks about equipping with the essential learning and critical thinking and greater focus on experiential learning. It talks about internationalization. In fact, this is the first time that in the education policy of our country, there's a separate chapter on internationalization. Because if there's anything that we have learned in the last 2-3 years, it is collaboration. Look at the vaccines. I mean, it is because people across the world collaborated that vaccines which traditionally used to take 10 to 15 years were developed in 1 year. And therefore, our motto, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the word is actually one place. But it's time to implement it now. It's time to understand that sitting here, I can very comfortably work with someone in Timbuktu. And we should. And then obviously the extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, this is going to stay. It's not going away anywhere. So while digital responsibility was the first one, the second one was the changing skills and roles we require. But obviously to implement all this, what becomes extremely important is the role of a teacher. The role of a teacher has become so important and has changed dramatically. Yes, I understand that different sectors underwent different kind of stress, but I think it was the teachers who underwent the maximum stress because overnight they had to change their way of teaching. Overnight, they had to train themselves in different tools which they had never used before. Overnight, they had to become expert in front of students, because unless and until you yourself are an expert, then how will you reach out to them? And therefore, that teacher, which as says that 150 years ago, teachers used to be the source of information. So we used to go to school or colleges and teachers used to teach us, and that's what we used to listen to or whatever, or you went to libraries. But now your student is accessing the same information as you are. So we are all accessing the same information, and therefore the role of the teacher is now no longer to just give them information. It's now to help them analyze that information, because that's where the experience comes. It's now to help them understand which information is important or which is not important. And therefore, when I'm talking about the role of teacher, I think one needs to understand that we are all social animals, and therefore that fundamental human interaction can never, ever be replaced. Never. I don't ever think that we would be happy only talking to a screen all the time. However, at the same time, the teachers have to understand that, yes, they have to change their role. They have to become the agents of change, and therefore they have to reinvent themselves with innovative pedagogy. And which brings me to the next topic, or the next important thing, which is innovative pedagogy. Now, what do I mean by this? This is such a buzzword. Everybody keeps talking about it, but I'll only talk about it with two examples, two very simple examples which we have all seen. So when I'm talking about this, before that, again, some facts in the last 2 years. So this study was carried out with around 1,200 parents and 500 teachers in the states of Orissa, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Uttar Pradesh. And it says that 82% parents faced challenges in supporting their children to access digital education. Please understand that when I'm talking about my country, there are still a lot of people. I mean, when we talk about the numbers, then yes, maybe we have the largest population accessing internet. But if we talk about percentage, there's a huge percentage for whom internet is still a luxury. Or maybe they don't have the required speed that should be there. So, and it says signal and internet speed were the biggest issues. Teachers fear that 30% students might not return after school reopens. And WhatsApp was the most commonly used medium of delivery. So a lot of workers or a lot of people at the bottom end of the pyramid, so they are all using, I mean, they don't have these computers or whatever. So it's WhatsApp on which classes are happening, right? In such a scenario, how do you engage students? Yes, we have to be agents of change. Yes, we have to come up with innovative pedagogy, but how? So two examples. So this was a village in Jharkhand. Jharkhand's Dumarkar village in Jarmundi, Dumka. So really, really in the interiors, where internet is a fancy word, where speed is a fancier word. Don't these children deserve to be educated? Of course, yes, and more than anyone else. And that's where the teachers, they actually became the agent of change. And you know what they did? They said if the students they will forget. If we don't connect with them, if we don't teach them, the students will forget. And if they will forget, then they will not come back to the school. If they don't study, and we all know how important it is that, yes, children must be educated. So what did they do? Look at the huts. They painted blackboards on the huts. Every child was given one blackboard. The teacher, so this is actually the principal. There were teachers who used to go around with loudspeakers. So this is the mic, this is the loudspeaker, and they used to conduct the class maintaining social distance. So look at this. This is social distance is maintained and everyone is masked. And that's how they taught. So everyone had, and this is what I call innovative pedagogy. They had to reach out to the students. They did. They had limited resources. They do not have too much resources. Mobile phone, internet, WhatsApp, Google Meet, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. These are alien words for them. But if anyone deserves education, it's them. And that's what they did. Innovative pedagogy. The next example that I am going to share with you is something very personal and something which I think many of the students would be able to relate to, which we did here in SCMS and which was collaborative online international learning, or COIL as it is popularly called. And I'm very proud when I say this, that at UG level, maybe we are one of the few institutes who are doing this. Again, what did we do? We always had semester exchange, and we will continue to have. However, only a few students can go in semester exchange for a lot of reasons. One reason also being financial. There are other reasons also. But at the same time, I mean, as I said, never before was it more important for all of us to connect together and work from different parts of the world rather than today. So go to any multinational or go to any organization today. So today you have people, especially in India for long, we have people sitting here in India and doing the work of people sitting in most probably America or Africa or Europe or wherever. And what is more important is not just the work. What is more important is actually respecting each other's culture. But you don't do it overnight. And we wanted our students to be ready when they step out to actually work in a multinational team. And this was a beautiful platform. So what is happening? The cohort of students from India, to be more specific, SCMS Pune, work with the cohort of students earlier in USA and now in Brazil. And look at the difference. There's no similarity between the two cohorts. Two different universities, two different cultures, two different languages, and huge time difference. When we have day, they have night. And yet we collaborated. We collaborated for successful COIL projects. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, now we are going for a 5th or 6th COIL projects. So again, innovative pedagogy, right? So as I said, what I started off was first, the most important thing for me, which is responsibility. Because if you're not responsible, then you are going to be a liability rather than an asset. And responsibility is a synonym of freedom, is a synonym of ethics. If we have to be responsible, great. We move ahead and we understand that technology is important, but what is more important are the ethical skills. We understood the changing role of teachers. We understood the changing jobs. And if we have to groom ourselves for those changing jobs, then what you need is a changing role of a teacher. If you want a changing role of a teacher, then you need innovative pedagogies. And I just showed you that to be innovative, you don't have to travel to another planet. Sometimes it's just so simple, be it urban or be it rural. Challenges are going to be part of life. In fact, my favorite quote is, happiness is not the absence of problems, it's the ability to deal with them. And we have all overcome those challenges in the past 2 years because we all have the ability. We just have to understand it. And yes, the tool which helps you is education. I go back to a Sanskrit quote which says, Nachar haryam, nacharaja haryam, na bhatra bhajyam, nacha bharkari. Vyaye krite vardhate nityam, vidya dhanam sarve dhanam pradhan. Education is the best wealth because no one can steal it. No one can snatch it. It cannot be divided. It's not heavy to carry. The beautiful thing is, the more you consume, the more you share it with everyone, it increases. So the best wealth, vidya dhanam, sarve dhanam pradhanam. Right? With that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much to all the students for being here.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful session. Truly, teaching students how to learn, relearn, and unlearn will set them up with the skills that they can use to thrive in the workforce of the future. Because as mentioned by you, ma'am, nobody knows the course of our careers in the future. And the only constant that is known to us is continuous learning and to be enriched with the most beautiful beauty that we have with us, which is knowledge. So thank you for teaching us that, ma'am. The students have a lot of questions for you, and with your permission, ma'am, we would like to read out to them. The first one is, online education has been a challenge for both the faculty and the students alike, but things are slowly moving back to the offline world. So how do you think the education sector can make this shift smoother? And what are the challenges we are likely to face in the same?
So let me ask you, I mean, in the sense, which classes, is it given a choice, you prefer online classes or you prefer offline classes?
Offline classes, any day.
So there's no challenge. We are all dying to get back to the classes. We are all waiting, I mean, whether as faculty or whether as students. We are, when we started with online classes, yes, it was interesting for those few months and it was a need of the hour. But that energy which is there in the class, that looking at faces, scolding them, shouting at them, laughing with them, all those things can never happen online. So I don't see a challenge in going from online to offline. In fact, I think that is what all of us are waiting for. Having said that, will online go away completely? Well, I think no, because online has its own merits. Online has its merits in the sense that you can study anytime. You can at your own pace, you can complete a course. Also, if you're situated in a far away place or a remote place, maybe online is great for you. So I don't think online is going away anywhere. But at the same time, I think what will happen will be hybrid mode, maybe. So, or online, earlier was also there. So MOOCs, massive open online courses, what was it? It was online. So, and I think in the coming years, maybe physical classes, being present in the class is going to become a prestigious thing. It's going to be a sought after thing. But at the same time, the good thing about online is that that education can be accessed by far more people than earlier, because infrastructure limits you. In a class, we can only have a certain number of students. Whatever, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, that's it. Beyond a certain number, you cannot have students in a class. And that's where online helps you. Online allows education to reach out to that last person also. So as I said, maybe attending physically would become precious, would become something sought after. But the good thing is that online education will allow more and more people to acquire knowledge and education.
Absolutely, ma'am. We can't wait to come back for offline classes. but simultaneously also take all the benefits of online classes and learn at our own pace. Thank you so much for your answer, ma'am.
Ma'am, we have received another question for you. Being the director of one of the top BBA institutes of India must come with many unique challenges. What have been some of the most unique and interesting problems you've had to face while leading SCMS Pune to a greater future?
There were no problems. I mean, in the sense that I won't use the word problem. I would use the word our responsibility. Anyone, and this is not just true for us, anyone in the education sector, I think our responsibility is to ensure that our students study a relevant, updated curriculum so that when they walk out, when they graduate, then they are ready to contribute right from day one. And therefore, that's the challenge. The challenge is to ensure that your curriculum, that whatever you are, the various platforms that you are providing your students, because it's not just about academics anymore. I have never believed in that. It is academics and beyond academics. So the various platforms that you're providing your students, whether it's academics or beyond academics, they are relevant, they are contemporary, and they help them acquire the skills which make them ready to contribute right from day one. And I don't want to be humble about this, but I really want to talk about SCMS Pune. I just love SCMS Pune, and I think at various stages we have done this. So, I mean, now everybody talks about MOOC or massive open online courses, but we introduced them way back in 2015. I mean, we could see it even then that they can add to the skill set of our students. Again, COIL. I mean, maybe we are one of the few UG institutes, I would like to say the only, but maybe we are one of the few UG institute in the country which has introduced COIL, right? So I think that it's a challenge. The challenge to ensure that your, and this is true for any education institute, that your students acquire skills which are contemporary, relevant, and yet help them for the future. And therefore, those different platforms. Also, I think the challenge is that to provide you different platforms, because there can be no one platform which can help you acquire all the skills. It's not possible. They have to be different platforms. So the skills you acquire by organizing a festival are very different from the skills you acquire when you listen to dignitaries. The skill you acquire when you work in an NGO or you do your internship is very different from the skill you acquire when you actually prepare for your exam or your written test or whatever. So the different platforms, I think that is the challenge. The word problem, and I think the challenge, or that is true for any organization, is yes, ensuring that all stakeholders work together.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your answer and for answering all the students' queries so patiently. We've surely learned so many values from you. Thank you for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I must appreciate both of you again, Ashutoshji and Shreya. Thank you so much for organizing this wonderful series of getting this prestigious grant. You have just added another feather to SCMS Pune. And thank you to all the IT team, Nitin, Milind, Harish, Aditi, Vanshika, Pandeji. You guys have done a fabulous job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a pleasure. And with this, we come to an end of the Shastri Indo-Canadian virtual lecture series. We indeed express our heartfelt gratitude to all the eminent speakers who joined us yesterday and today to share their valuable experiences and words of wisdom with us. We would now like to call upon Dr. Shreya Virani, faculty at Symbiosis Center for Management Studies, Pune, to kindly give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Anushri. Coming to the end of this 2 days Shastri Indo-Canadian lecture series, We take this opportunity to extend our gratitude to today's speakers, Mr. Sharma and our beloved director, Dr. Adya Sharma ma'am, for delivering a very insightful and thought-provoking session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Our thanks to the competitors, Anushri Samit, Placement Cell, Student Council, Academic Coordinators, IT team, Ms. Aditi, Mr. Angelo, student participants, my colleagues in faculty, non-teaching staff for their support and cooperation. We sincerely thank you, ma'am, for your constant support and guidance. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us and making this event a great success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We thank each and every one of you again for joining us for the 2-day Shastri Indo-Canadian virtual lecture series. Thank you. Stay safe and goodbye, everyone.